You have a very good point about the abortion rebranding. This is Kamala Harris's big issue. She's winning on this issue. And this is only referred to as life-saving care that these women need.
Yep. They follow the same formula on every subject. So when it comes to abortion, we tell the story at the very beginning. We start every chapter with this heart-rending narrative that is actually supposed to get the reader to take the progressive position, to show you what the media does. And we tell this story of a woman named Samantha in Texas who found out that her baby at 20 weeks gestation had a possibly life-limiting diagnosis. And NPR told this story with the hopes that via toxic empathy, that the reader would think, wow, these pro-life laws are so draconian, to put ourselves in the feelings of only the woman, to think of only the mother, and to ignore that there is a human being, an in-souled child on the other side of this moral equation. The victim of every abortion is the baby. And yet toxic empathy, because it channels all of our feelings only into one purported victim, it actually blinds us to both reality and morality. Even if you are someone who lands on the side of being pro-choice, it would still be wise to acknowledge that there is a person that we're talking about in every abortion situation. There is a life that's being snuffed out. And so I'm encouraging women to critically think, to ask questions, to know about not just the intentions of the policies that progressives put forth, but the outcomes. And immigration is a huge issue when it comes to this. Women who want to accept the foreigner, to love the sojourner, as the Bible says, and the media does the same thing. They'll hoist up the poor mother that's fleeing Colombian gang violence, who is scared of the specter of a Donald Trump presidency because she might be deported, to try to get you to think that that's all illegal immigration is. They want you to ignore the Venezuelan gang violence. They want you to ignore Kate Steinle and Laken Riley and Molly Tibbetts and the consequences of opening up our borders. So that's what I want.
And they want you to feel like a bad person if you recognize that people coming from third world countries probably don't have the same cultural standards that we do. And we don't want them moving into our neighborhoods for that reason alone. You'll get shamed as a racist or a bigot or whatever. I don't care. Who wants somebody who has grown up basically in the street with street justice prevailing as one's North Star, moving into their cute little downtown suburb where they have their little kids? It's not racist to say you don't want that. Right. I expect certain people in my neighborhood to live up to certain community standards when it comes to behavior. This is what the people in Springfield are dealing with right now. They talk about these Haitian migrants going into the grocery store, opening up the cans of food, sticking their hands in, eating some of it, and discarding the jar on the floor. No, we don't want to live like that.
Right. And no one does. The very people who are preaching to the rest of us about accepting people who have grown up in third world countries, who are diametrically opposed to the values that our families hold, that our communities hold, they don't want what you're describing for themselves. They want it for other people. They want it for the people of Springfield. They want it for the people of Aurora. They want it for the people who don't have the political capital, who don't have the money, don't have the influence to defend themselves. They don't want it for their gated communities. They don't want it for their nice neighborhoods. They want it for other people. Empathy. No,
Allie Beth, we just showed, right before you got here, we just showed Martha Raddatt's house, which she bought 7 years ago for $2.125 million in Arlington. It's an estate. It's spectacular. You saw her on the Sunday show giving J.D. Vance a hard time about Trump's claim about what's happening in Aurora, Colorado with Venezuelan gangs coming in. To your point, Martha Raddatt's doesn't have a thing to worry about. In her beautiful home in Arlington, Virginia, there will never be a gang of Venezuelan gang members coming to commit crimes on her lawn.
Exactly. And well, that's why empathy is such a convenient, really non-virtue, because you can claim to be a good person by saying you have empathy, but empathy is just about how you feel. It's not about your actions. It's not about actually loving someone. And so she can claim to have empathy for the migrant, empathy for the poor person, knowing that the effects of her policy decisions and what she advocates for will never show up at her door. And there's nothing wrong with having a lot of money and having a beautiful estate. I know, I'm looking at it. It's gorgeous. I wish I lived there myself. but it is not loving. It is not kind. You're not being a good citizen, a good steward of the privileges and the rights that you have to say basically safety, security for me, but not for thee.
Mm-hmm. Enter into the conversation Bryan Cranston, who I loved in Breaking Bad, just like most Americans who saw the series, but who I cannot stand as an individual. And the reason I can't stand Bryan Cranston is personal. I'll tell you what it is after you look at this shot of him endorsing Kamala Harris and listen to him explain why.
I am not a politician. I am not a doctor or a lawyer, but I've played all of those on television. But I am a father of a daughter. And it's important to me for her life now and for the future and other fathers' daughters to be able to have within their lifetime the fundamental right of freedom of choice. There should not be anyone but them deciding what happens to their own bodies.
Really wants to make sure his grandchildren can be aborted. He's standing in front of a sign that reads, fighting for reproductive freedom. So Allie Beth, the reason I don't like Bryan Cranston is because a dear friend of mine was one of this guy's closest friends for decades. And Bryan Cranston dumped my friend as his friend because he's a Republican and voted for Trump. He's not even like a huge Republican. He's a Republican. I mean, he's a right-leaning guy. But he ended their lifelong friendship just because he turned out to be a Trump supporter. That is so vile and so disgusting and is right on brand with what we just heard there.
Oh, yeah. Horrible person. I mean, you and I both have people in our lives that we love dearly and disagree with. And maybe we have to decide for a period of time that we're not going to talk about politics. I have multiple friends that, especially in the summer of 2020, were like, okay, we're not going to talk about this BLM stuff anymore because it's hurting our relationship. And we moved on. And at the end of the day, we have the same core values. That's why we're friends. And that's what mature people do. That's what kind and compassionate people do. But that's not what petty political people do. And that's Bryan Cranston. And it's not because of his love for his daughter that he is voting for Kamala Harris. I mean, that is such a ridiculous statement. Everyone has reproductive freedom. No one is stopping you from reproducing children if you want to. What we do want to restrict, what we do want to stop is the killing of unborn children. And it's amazing to me that he and how many other celebrities, Steph Curry, Jennifer Lawrence, Taylor Swift, have all said their number one reason to vote for communism, basically, to vote for open borders, is abortion. How superficial and evil is that?
Well, of course, for Taylor Swift, it was also Tim Walz's LGBTQ policies, which include his radical trans policies in Minnesota. I mean, that's what she said. And thank God Trump is getting better at dropping the ads in the right places and the right time on Harris Walz and their radicalness when it comes to the trans issue. He continues to run this ad, although he improved it, during NFL football games. Look at the latest.
He murdered a father of 3, sentenced to life in prison. Kamala Harris pushed to use tax dollars to pay for his sex change.
I made sure that they changed the policy so that every transgender inmate would have access.
It sounds insane because it is insane. Kamala was the first to help pay for a prisoner's sex change.
The power that I had, I used it in a way that was about pushing for the movement, frankly, and the agenda.
Kamala's agenda is they, them, not you.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Pretty good.
Oh, that last line was so good. It is about time they start hitting her and Walz on this, because you'll notice if you look at the Democrat side during this campaign, what has been absent, the quote unquote trans issue. They don't want these people representing the Democrat Party. They know how unpopular this is with women, with most Americans, even people on the left. So they're not talking about it. Good on Trump and Vance bringing this up. We have men in women's prisons who say that they're women raping these incarcerated women, impregnating them, beating them, assaulting them. This is the consequence of that toxic empathy. It blinds you to what is good and true.
You know how much my family and I love our dogs. Yes, even Strudwick. It's been especially bad lately. Read the newsletter. There's an update. I can't imagine life without them, though sometimes I do. Not Thunder, but sometimes. But I love him. I love him, and I do enjoy most of my time with them. Look, my dogs have a great life. I'm sure your dogs have a great life too. But you and I both know that some dogs are not so lucky. This is why I'm so glad to tell you about Delta Rescue. I love Delta Rescue. Whenever you donate to anyone who claims to take care of animals, you've got to look for the words no kill. No kill. Otherwise, you know what happens if nobody adopts the dog or the cat. This, Delta Rescue, is the largest no-kill, care for life animal sanctuary in the world. They've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, horses too. They provide all the animals with shelter and safety and most of all, love. And they've been doing it now for more than 45 years. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions, and giving can bring tax benefits too. Speak with your estate planner about how you can grow your estate while helping animals in need, and check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more. We love Thunder and Strudwick, but would love for other dogs who need care and attention and a home to find those too. Visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. That's deltarescue.org. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.